4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for July 29th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Capcom continues to dominate, and Gearbox threatens us with another Borderlands movie. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host, the Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa, everybody. Jan, how are you doing?
I am so tired, Grubb.
Returning champion. Yeah, you've had a go of it recently. You were in Japan, but that's not where you're coming from. You're coming from San Diego because you did that as well. How has it been going for you? Have you found time to recover at all?
Negative. Not at all, and it's fine. Let's keep going until the wheels fall off, Jeff Grubb.
Going. Yeah. We were looking at some events coming up too, and it's like, oh my God, we're gonna do this back to back and stuff like that. Or some people are traveling different countries and going to cities. It's not gonna slow down.
Yeah, I think I think I might tag out of one of those.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We could construct some of these things in such a way that you can tag out.
And I suggest everyone tag out if they have to. Do not put yourself through the ringer for the sake of putting yourself through the ringer. Where it will be completely fine. And maybe you at home will also be completely fine. Jeff Grubb, you know what I learned?
What's that?
I feel like in my time in the video game media industry, I have been to several, maybe 2 E3s, 3 Summer Game Fests.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly, the video game industry is a tad more organized than the entertainment industry.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that don't like wasting time in the video game industry, and you could tell at some events where it's like, oh, people thought about a lot of this stuff, and maybe it's a little surprising, but I'm guessing that this is in comparison to and in contrast to San Diego Comic-Con, which you didn't necessarily know what was going on when you went there. Now that you've come from there, do you know what happened?
To be honest, no. But let me tell you, I always enjoy getting to work with the extended fandom crew. I mean, got to work with Emma, of course, Chris Hayner, Tam and Lucy were down there, but also shouts out to the whole fandom team, the production team that was down there. A lot of bonding time in being down in the trenches. I actually didn't get to see too much of the convention floor itself because I was in our little press suite,
right,
90% of the time. So I didn't get to witness the full bedlam that is Comic-Con.
You met RDJ, though, I'm sure, though.
No. Okay. So that was happening in Hall H.
Uh-huh.
We were in a hotel directly next to the convention center. I was scared because I heard a huge welling of yelling.
Oh, you heard
that happened. I heard it from our hotel suite.
That's crazy. That's kind of thing that makes it's like, oh, okay, well, duh. That's why they do it. They can get that kind of reaction from it, and there's just no way else to get that kind of reaction.
100%. And then the day previously, there was a fire at Comic-Con.
Really?
So I was just concerned that something was happening.
Yeah, I bet that sounds scary, right? So now
it was a shoot fire and not a work fire.
Okay, so shoot fire, and then you hear yelling the next day. Yeah, I would assume the worst for sure.
Yeah. That being said, I found out that there are a lot of pretty cool and neat shows that I've now have added to my my list of things to watch, which I don't like.
Right.
Turns out, have you ever heard of the show called From? On
no,
MGM Plus.
That's a Japanese developer that makes video games from.
That's what I thought.
Uh-huh.
I was like, we got. Why are we interviewing not Elder Scrolls? Elden Ring.
Yeah.
No, it's a completely different show on MGM Plus.
MGM Plus, right? The one to watch, not for HBO.
Yes. Oh, also, I think I want to become a Star Trek fan.
Yeah, this is a great idea. I saw this and I was pretty excited, as I am with most of your tweets. But when I saw that one, I was like, yeah, this should happen. I think a great place to start is with the movies. There are a lot, not like the original Star Trek movie. That one is like, you save that until you're like super into it. But honestly, if you start with like Wrath of Khan, even though there's an episode of the original series that plays into that, it doesn't matter. Watch Wrath of Khan, watch the third movie, the fourth movie, maybe not the fifth movie, sixth movie, and then see how you feel about the next generation stuff. That's a really great way to get into. So all those movies are really, really good. They just have that excellent, like, Star Trek. Here's a great premise, and then here's some fun characters experiencing that premise. So I would start there, and then I don't know. Are you thinking the original series? Or are you thinking next generation? What's the plan?
I was going to solicit some advice as to where to start, because I have heard that path of approaching it through the movies first, and then if that tickles my fancy, then to dip into the old show, and then into the next generation. We had Kate Mulgrew in the press suite interview, and we interviewed her because she's in Star Trek Prodigy, which is an animated show on Netflix.
Right. Okay.
Now.
Yeah. Totally.
And she was an absolute delight.
She seems awesome.
Like,
she seems really, really
great.
cool. And for people wondering, that is the original captain of Voyager, right? That we're talking about here. Yes, she is awesome. She's like was in Orange Is the New Black and all this other stuff. She's been in a ton of other things, but yeah, she seems like a really cool person. So I'm glad to hear that.
And let me tell you, people in Hollywood, they are pretty.
Yeah, I would bet.
Pretty people,
really pretty people, huh? They got them down in San Diego, huh?
I felt like an uggo.
Yeah. Oh no, Jan, never. They were looking at you and thinking the same thing. Come on. Yeah, I'm happy for you with the Star Trek thing. Go for it. Definitely start with Wrath of Khan. I think that's a great place to start. Okay. And that's honestly, that's what really super got me into Star Trek. I had watched Star Trek before that, but then it was Christmas Eve, and me and my brother are just like, you want to watch something? I'm like, I have Wrath of Khan, and I was going to watch that. He's like, whatever. And then we watched it. We're like, we're doing this every Christmas Eve as soon as it was over, and became a tradition.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a good time. All right. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you were watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Capcom says all business segments outperformed in latest results. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC, and it's going to be a little bit of an Andy Robinson show here, everybody. Capcom says it's on track to achieve its earnings forecast for the year, and that all of its business segments outperformed its plan in the most recent quarter. The Monster Hunter publisher reported its financial results for the 3 months ended June 30th, 2024, and said that it was on track despite net sales being down 32.5%. and operating income being down 46.4% for beating both significantly for coming over across past their expectations for both categories by the end of the year. The company attributed the year-over-year decline to the release of Street Fighter VI last June, and noted that its releases are heavily stacked towards the second half of the financial calendar, which ends in March 2025. Currently, the publisher has confirmed Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster for release in September. Monster Hunter Wilds currently has a loose 2025 release window. Let's see, and then Capcom's arcade operations, amusement equipments, and other business segments were all up during the quarter. Yeah, Capcom hitting on all cylinders is kind of the phrase we always go to when we're talking about this company right now. It continues to be true. I get kind of excited, though, when I hear them say, hey, we're kind of looking to be down year over year, but our expectations are here. We're going to surpass that. And then our release schedule is heavily weighted toward Q4 of this year and Q1 of next year. And those are calendar quarters. So into March 2025. This is a company that usually releases something massive in the first quarter. Obviously, they have Monster Hunter Wilds coming for a loose 2025 window. That one probably does launch in Q1, right? That could come out in March of next year.
Yeah, I'd have to assume that that is their big tent pole for the first half of 2025. And I mean, when I checked it out at SGF, it felt like it was pretty far along the process of being like good to go. Um, Exciting for Capcom across the board. Like
Yes.
any and everything, like no matter what, like the scale of the titles they're putting out. Like I wasn't initially sold on Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess. But hearing the buzz after its release and how people slowly start to pick it up, I am pretty interested in it, especially hearing that it is akin to a PS2 era of game.
It is. I started playing it very much so. Very Chris Person was like, Pikmin ass game, PS2 ass game, and he made it positive, and I'm like, I'm playing it 100%. That's the case.
Yeah. And I think I could go for a game like that right now. And if Capcom is able to continue to hit audiences across the board in terms of like AAA blockbuster and a huge type of game like the new Monster Hunter, or appeal to the nostalgia with like a Dead Rising, and then hit the oddballs with a game like Path of the Goddess, I think they can continue to outperform everything.
Yeah, I think what they are they're in a situation where I think they understand their business. They understand what their teams are capable of. They aren't overextending themselves too frequently. They are putting themselves in positions where they are making big games that don't take a decade to make. So a lot of remakes, it seems like a very smart strategy because it's what people want. People really want those. Two, it reinvests in their most popular franchises like Resident Evil. And then three, it is something that's like they understand, they have the engine and the technology to get that stuff done relatively quickly. And then for when they take risks, they're like looking around, they're like, well, can we try something? And it ends up being something like Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, where it's like, hey, this feels smaller and different and experimental. And at the same time, they're putting some Capcom love on it, and most people seem to really like that game, including myself. I'm enjoying it quite a bit now that I'm playing it. So it's like, yeah, Capcom just seems to have this formula figured out, and it's a formula that enables them to do a bunch of different kinds of games. So you're not going to end up with formulaic games. It's just a formula with a lot of variables that they can change to make different kinds of stuff, and that's going to keep them feeling fresh going forward.
And for what it's worth, speaking about the formulaic style of some of their games, I have heard a lot of positive buzz about the Niantic Monster Hunter game, and how even some of the longtime hardcore Pokemon Go audience has dipped over to go check out Monster Hunter. I think it's Monster Hunter Now?
Monster Hunter Now, that's right, yes.
Monster Hunter Now. And I'm excited for the possibility of other offshoots on mobile, perhaps, that Capcom is curious about. Like, Grubb, I'm not gonna say this, I don't want to put this evil out into the world, but what if Capcom re-teams up with Niantic and lets me jack in everywhere across the world?
That's an idea right there. Wow. Yeah, Mega Man Battle Network now.
Battle Network Go.
Battle Network Go. You could see how that just makes a ton of sense. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I need to TM.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Cut the check,
Capcom.
There it is. It is exciting to think, oh my God, the Niantic can still get one of these that feels exciting. And Monster Hunter's, definitely the right audience, that they eat that stuff up. And it also seems to be a platform where they're like, hey, we could do something new. We can make these boss fights feel very specific. I don't know how the game works, so I'd have to check it out myself. But I don't know. It just continues to sound like that Capcom magic that it rubs off on everyone. So if you get involved in one of their projects, they're going to be right there making sure that you do it as good as you possibly can. And I think that is what we continue to see from Capcom themselves. So the growth will continue to come, and it's just strong fundamentals, right? It's like when you look at a team that it's like, man, they have their superstars, but that's not why they're winning. They're winning because they're just doing the fundamentals right across the board, and they do it with every single one of these games. And that's the sense I get from Capcom. For sure.
They're the Sacramento Kings.
They're Tim Duncan's San Antonio Spurs is what I'm thinking there.
There we go.
Clearly great players. Nothing flashy. They're just doing their thing. Of course, Capcom's got some flashy games, but listen, it doesn't fully work, but I got there. All right. Capcom did explain how Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Game Collection arcade classics came to be. This is from Nintendo Everything. Last month's Nintendo Direct featured a few surprise announcements, including a big one for the fighting game community, that being Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. That package comes with Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which came as a shock to many. Shuhei Matsumoto, the collection's producer, recently spoke about how it all came to be. It turns out that there's long been interest on Capcom's side, and the company was in talks with Marvel for years now to see whether we can make this happen. Marvel seemed to generate interest, and fans wanted to see classic games on modern hardware. Below are the full comments from Matsumoto. In terms of past Capcom-developed Marvel titles, this has been something that myself and the team have been wanting to re-release for years and years now. It was just a matter of timing and making sure that everyone was on board. We've actually been in talks with Marvel for years now to see whether we can make this happen. They were also on board. Because of that, it's kind of like the stars aligned. The timing was great, and now we are actually able to bring it to life. We're all very excited. And some of the inspiration about doing this was that Marvel took notice of the community-based tournaments at places like EVO. With Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and other Marvel tournaments happening, they know that people really love the series and really want these games to be available on modern platforms, so now is the chance for them to do so. I think maybe he's overstating the effect of community-run tournaments for games like this, but I don't think so, Jan, because I think the place that Marvel's in right now, where obviously they very recently were on top of the world with the MCU and still make a lot of money from those movies. It's not like it's completely fell off or something like that. But I think they are. I mean, yeah.
This past weekend.
Yes, exactly. It feels like it's swinging back real hard right now with Wolverine and Deadpool just crushing everything. And then RDJ news and all that stuff. But I think what they are appreciating is there are pockets of fandom that is like really passionate and really sincere, and they just like the game for whatever reason. The Marvel characters are a huge part of it, the way it plays, the synergies, all that stuff that's going on there. And I think Marvel's at a point where they can't ignore that and just go on their own. If they have something that works, they need to turn back and embrace it. And it feels like that's what's happening here. It's like, hey, we had a great partner in Capcom. Capcom is really responsible with this IP. We feel like we can trust them. And we've seen from the fandom that they continue to want this really bad. We have to capitalize on that. It's kind of what I'm getting the sense here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think out of a lot of fandoms and gaming communities, not saying that the FGC has never been a toxic community, but it has always been a spirited and very passionate fan base, specifically with the Marvel versus Capcom games. And I think, with the boom of the MCU, there was kind of like a space for those games to return in such a way, in like a strong force, but because of licensing and because of miscellaneous issues, it seemed like that would never come to be. And seeing this feels like a good step in the right direction, and perhaps that there's trust on both sides for Capcom to be able to do their thing and make the moves and swings, because they have the momentum, they have they've had the pedigree, but also for Disney to be like, all right, okay, we'll play ball, we'll stop being jerks. And maybe we can get Quackshot in this game.
Maybe that would be incredible. Actually, that'd be awesome. Honestly, yeah, that is like the next step, is to like those Disney Capcom collaborations, get those in the game. That would be fantastic. This game still coming, going to be very exciting. I played a little bit of SVC. And it's like, yeah, I see what people mean when they're like, that game's not great. It's bad in some ways. I think it's interesting, though, in a lot of other ways, too. But this is just an unmitigated, great game. People have been waiting for it to return. Here it is.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes after these big esport type things or video game tournament things, there's like sometimes some negativity that winds up coming out of like the positivity of the initial event. But I feel like after the Evo boom, it's just been the positivity of the fighting game community.
Yep.
And I definitely think that is something that Disney and Marvel need to try and, I don't want to say take advantage of, but capitalize off of, and just appeal to that community.
Yep, absolutely. I think it feels like a good long-term investment to make that community feel good about your stuff again, and it'll pay off in the end. It seems like.
Can you imagine if Disney threw the money at Capcom that they've thrown at Epic with whatever that Fortnite thing they're trying to do is?
Yeah, that's right. God, I mean, and I'm sure that Fortnite thing will probably work with that audience and
100%
and all that stuff. But you're right. Like, it feels like some of that money could have been spread around a little bit, or some equivalent investments. Obviously, it's a huge investment into Epic, so it wasn't going to be that big. But you're right. It feels like, well, who knows? It feels like they are like going down that path of working with Capcom in a real way, and they have been. And who knows? Maybe that turns into something even bigger that does have Capcom and Disney partnering up in more ways going forward.
Like, I know that there is a Blade game in development, but maybe, like, can you imagine a Blade game with the RE engine would be something?
Yeah, listen, that gets me excited. Absolutely. That does remind me. I meant to include it here. I read it right before we were about to go live. Amy Hennig's, let's see, Captain America and Black Panther game is going to be published by Plaion. So Plaion was formerly, it's an Embracer Group company, but Skydance Interactive is like developing the game with Amy Hennig in charge, and now it has a publisher in Plaion. How does that make you feel? Because I'm like, ooh, that just kind of hearing Plaion these days, it sounds a little bit low rent in some ways.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, you get that sense as well.
Yeah, I don't like saying it got that stink on it, Grubb, but
yeah,
I don't like that it immediately gives me like an aversion to the game rather than my initial excitement for it.
Yes, exactly. And that's let's see, let me get the name of the game here. It is Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra. I'll just read from VGC here real quick. The publisher, formerly known as Koch Media, has entered into a worldwide publishing partnership with the game's developer, Skydance Games. Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra was revealed during an Unreal Engine showcase at GDC in March, and stars Drew Mowerlin as Captain America and Carrie Payton as Black Panther, with a release set for sometime in 2025. So the game's coming in hot, like coming out next year. We're
baby.
Yeah, we're in July right now. So this game's coming out in the next 18 months now as a publisher. Does that like set a certain level of expectation for you for this game? Because I'm like, didn't have a publisher? What the hell's going on here? So this is a little bit of how Disney and Marvel and Star Wars and all those things under that umbrella kind of work these days, where Disney's like, yeah, we know we need to be more into video games. We're not super into paying for video games. That money went to Epic. If you have an idea and you have a way of funding it, getting it made and finding a publisher and all that stuff, you can do it. Here's some ideas. At least that seems to be the case in some instances. Maybe it's not across the board, but I think we saw that with the KOTOR remake and the what's the French guy that does those walking simulators that's making a High Republic game. I can't remember the name of it. Star Wars Eclipse. Is it Eclipse?
Yeah.
Something like that. Either way, it's like that had a similar situation where it's like, Disney's like, yeah, you can use the IP, but we're not really super going to be funding this thing. So the fact that this game is 18 months out at the most, and it's just now getting a publisher, does that set a certain level of expectation for you?
I don't want to say that it rings the alarms, Grubb, but it's like the button is hovering over it,
right?
At this point. And I know that they had a presentation where they showed off that cinematic trailer. I don't remember any actual gameplay from that.
Yeah, trailer, I think they're kind of just setting the tone with that thing a little bit. Yes.
Now I'm even more curious to see any gameplay. And maybe there was a specific reason that they had only put out that cinematic trailer, versus incorporating any type of gameplay to it.
Yeah, maybe.
So now I am a little bit worried about the game, but hopeful nonetheless.
Right. And there's a look at the trailer. I mean, it looks big and expensive, and I bet it's going to be in a lot of ways, but if it comes out and it is pared down in some aspects because they don't want to, or they were trying to save money and put it where it really matters, I think they could still make a very good game that has an emphasis on these characters and the story. And I think that'll be just fine, as long as they can pull what they're going for off.
Yeah, I think you can be successful as a Marvel game if you are not trying to completely placate to the MCU audience.
Right. And this feels like it can exist outside of that.
Exactly. Like, I think that's why the Spider-Man games work so well, on top of them being made by Insomniac. Yes. But like, everyone knows that I am a big fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out a couple of years ago. And that wasn't necessarily trying to ham-fist everything that the MCU Guardians had shown to like the general audience.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, plenty more headlines to get into, including the death of the Xbox 360 marketplace right after this. All right, we are back, and as promised, there's just one day left before the Xbox 360 marketplace closes, and this story was written yesterday, so honestly, I think this thing might be done by now. By the time you're hearing this, the Xbox 360 marketplace could be closed. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. Xbox 360 owners had 1 day left to purchase games from the console's online marketplace. As previously announced, after July 29th, it will no longer be possible to buy any more games or DLC from the Xbox 360 marketplace. Users will still be able to re-download their previous purchases for the foreseeable future, according to Microsoft. Many digital Xbox 360 games have been discounted ahead of the closure, and you can view them all, and they have a link over there on VGC if you want to track that down in case the store is still open. But people are saying in chat they think it's closed. There are currently nearly 500 games in the Games on Demand section of the Xbox 360 store. This section deals with games which also have physical releases. While these will all disappear when the Xbox 360 store closes, some of them will still be available to purchase digitally on Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S stores if they're part of Xbox's backward compatible games library. After it was announced that the store would be closing, Microsoft's head of gaming said he'd like to find a way to ensure that hundreds of titles aren't lost when the Xbox 360's digital store closes, because there are quite a few digital-only games that haven't been released anywhere else that you won't be able to find again. Now, all that said, you can always hack an Xbox 360. It's over. They're not going to sell it to you anymore. Go hack your Xbox 360. It's time. Once the store closes like that, it's like officially them saying, we're not going to sell this to you anymore. This is not a going concern. And the Xbox 360 is a good piece of hardware, except for when it red rings. You can still find these games that way. But yeah, it's a bummer. It's just always sad to see these things close down. Part of me, when I'm buying these games digitally on the Xbox 360, subconsciously I was thinking, Jan, oh, this is forever. And I don't know why I felt that way. I knew intellectually that was not the case, that the store would last forever. But at the time, it's like, yeah, this is the future, and it's just going to be this way going forward. And it's not, and that's a little bit sad.
Yeah, I think I had the same mentality, and for me, I always felt like the Xbox 360 marketplace was just 2-3 years ago, when in reality it was quite a while ago now, Grubb.
Yes.
And yeah, I just have so many fond memories of discovering games for the first time, and then that marketplace just kind of getting a little nostalgic, Grubb.
Yep.
I'm thinking of OG Trials. I'm thinking of Explosion Man and how everybody loves donuts.
Yeah.
And I really, really hope, and I know that there are other means to acquire some of these games now. But I do hope that the games that never got a physical release are going to be preserved somehow. And I feel like digital preservation is only going to get more challenging once we get up to this generation, where there are so many titles coming out constantly. So many H games, Grubb. How are we going to also preserve those?
I don't know. We got to do something now. We got to get somebody on the case. There are people in chat now just naming games. Dan Reichert says Hexic HD and Explosion Man. I want to play that Yaris game, the Toyota Yaris game. That's always fun. Yeah, there are a lot of games on there that are some of my favorites, and those are like Pac-Man Championship Edition DX and Geometry Wars 2 and all that stuff. These games that just were leaderboard chasing, very much my thing, obviously. Yeah, I would play hours and hours and hours of those games, and that it really just made the Xbox 360 feel more alive and dynamic than any console before it in a lot of ways. And a lot of that just comes down to these games, many of these games that are going to be lost now, and that's a shame. Borderlands boss teases what's next. I'm confident our fans will be very, very happy. And that's the quote there in the headline from Andy Robinson at VGC. Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford has seemingly teased the next Borderlands game, stating that the studio is working on big things and that an announcement would come soon. Publisher 2K confirmed that the next Borderlands game is in active development at Gearbox earlier this year, after it announced it had acquired Gearbox Entertainment from Embracer Group for $460 million. Speaking to Games Radar, Pitchford suggested that fans won't have to wait long for more information about it. I haven't been perfect at hiding the fact that we're working on many things and that we're working on big things, the co-founder said. I'm confident that our fans are going to be very, very happy with the next video game project when we are ready to announce it, and I will tell you that we're not going to be making people wait for a long time before we announce it. Pitchford teased that an announcement about the next Borderlands movie could also come before the end of the year. We'll see, maybe sooner. That's pretty confident. Let's talk about the game first, real quick.
Yes.
Yeah, we knew this was coming, but boy, they seem to be suggesting an announcement could be imminent. Do you think this is something that happens at like Gamescom, opening night live? I guess there's no reason it couldn't.
God, I didn't even think of that. I mean, if not at Gamescom, then Game Awards at the end of the year. Yeah, could definitely have like a big presence there.
You know, and Lexi says PAX. They always have a thing at PAX. I remember one year he had a big long like reveal thing at PAX, and he like clearly hired some like Instagram models to hang out with him, and they did magic at them, and I was pretty uncomfortable. Oh, boy. I remember that. So he might do that again, and he could announce the game there. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, hey, the Borderlands audience is a very spirited and passionate audience for those games. So doing it at a convention like PAX, where you are directly connecting to the gaming audiences, sure. Yeah. Maybe just, we don't need the Instagram models.
Yeah, maybe leave them alone.
Oh, he's gonna get TikTok influeence.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, whoever's on his USB drive these days.
Man. Yeah, I want to see Randy Pitchford do the Charlie XCX Apple dance. Someone out there, do it, please. Get that done.
What I mostly know about Charlie XCX is that she did the theme song for Super Nintendo World when they announced it. That Mario remix song, and my kids listen to that probably 200 times. So
it's Brat Summer, Grubb.
Yep, it's that also that, and I was like, I'm 90% sure this is Brat Summer and not Brat Summer, but I'm going to be having a Brat Summer over here. So stand back, everybody. I feel like I would probably enjoy Brad as well. Charlie XCX seems like a lot of fun. And then another movie announced before the end of the year. We'll see maybe sooner. He says, I've started seeing commercials on TV because I'm watching the Olympics, and many of those commercials are for a movie called Borderlands from the Gearbox Corporation under 2K now. I don't know. It looks like a movie. Do you know what I mean? Like it just looks like someone took something and made a movie out of it. And to me, that's like, okay, it doesn't look like it's going to be the worst thing. Doesn't look like it's going to be great. But far from it. I don't know what the final quality will be, but based on like the excitement I get coming out of those commercials, which is not a lot, I don't know if they necessarily need to make another one of these. What do you think?
Yeah, I also question about like the production of making another movie, because they had shot the upcoming movie so long ago and then had to go in for reshoots, and it was in production hell for so long that I imagine spinning the gears up to get a sequel or an offshoot going would be very challenging at this point.
Right. I mean, I suppose the good news would be like if they did reshoots, they probably had the writers right there with them. Maybe those writers will want to work on a sequel. I mean, hey, you get paid, but I don't know. I'll be curious to see if that does pan out. a lot of it's going to depend on that first weekend, right? We see that people are ready to go back to the movies for things they care about. There are a lot of people who care about Borderlands. I'm not expecting $200 million opening weekend like Wolverine and Deadpool did, but nothing's going to do that. I'm also maybe not expecting like $50 million, $40 million. Like that feels like the high end of what this movie can do, and it doesn't feel like that's in the cards.
It's so interesting to speculate how that movie is gonna hit with folk, because there are so many stars attached to it.
Yeah,
that has to carry it over for someone to say like, oh, Cate Blanchett's in a new movie. Oh, Jamie Lee Curtis. Like Kevin Hart is a giant comedian, despite me not enjoying Kevin Hart lately.
Yep.
And like that, does that translate to the box office? And like, does the Borderlands gaming audience, does their passion for Borderlands translate to the box office? We'll see.
We'll see. Yep. I'm not sure. I could say that I want to see it for my own needs and purposes, but those are not because I'm excited necessarily about what I've been seeing from it. All right. Over 8 minutes of ASTRO BOT gameplay appears online. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. Let me just get this here so people can take a look at it. There we go. Hit play and mute it because I think that was coming through. There we go. Yeah, more than 8 minutes of off-screen ASTRO BOT gameplay has been published, showing multiple levels of the PlayStation 5 platformer in action. The footage was captured by A9VG from China Joy, which is currently being held in Shanghai. Mostly including this. I'm pretty sure this is the stuff we played at Summer Game Fest. People are playing this everywhere though now. This thing is at China Joy. It was at Evo. Sean played it there. So I think that they're like, people need to play this to see how fucking good it is. Like, we did a good job and people need to play it. I'm glad that they're out there just showing this thing off. And boy, God, I just want this game so bad.
I was hoping for whatever reason this would be at Comic-Con.
Yeah, why not?
Like in a little corner kiosk.
Yeah.
But no, it was not.
Yeah, it's at Evo, but not Comic-Con. Yeah, that's weird.
Come on, Sony.
Yeah, get it together over there.
Yeah, but I saw not the full 8-minute video, but maybe like a smaller cut. And Grubb, I am really excited.
Yep, I am pretty ecstatic over here for just thinking like, God, we're in July. This thing's out in a month? Is this thing out in less than a month? That's okay. Yeah, that's like when I'm like, I had not been thinking about it in those terms. And now it's like, holy crap, we're going to be getting this thing in no time. And you know what? That does, let's bring it up to the other. People are saying, stop showing, you don't want to be spoiled. I'm telling you what, you kind of can't spoil it because playing it is so much better than just watching it. But yeah, this is some good stuff. But I will stop showing it because I got another thing here. Let's do that. Look at that fucking bad boy right there. ASTRO BOT-themed DualSense wireless controller has been announced. This is from Sal Romano at Gamatsu. Sony Interactive Entertainment has announced the DualSense wireless controller ASTRO BOT Limited Edition. It will launch in limited quantities, alongside the ASTRO BOT game on September 6th. When is ASTRO BOT out?
Soon?
Is it? Soon? I thought it was the 26th. Is the game out on the 6th?
No,
that's not right. Yes. Okay. So you could pre-order this thing.
September 6th.
Yeah. Oh, September 6th. That's right. So yeah, we're about a month out. Okay. So yes, that is a month before the game comes out. It will be $80. Pre-orders will open on PlayStation. Yeah, September 6th. There we go. PlayStation Direct and select retailers on August 9th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. So that's the date I was looking at. So August 9th is when you could start pre-ordering it. Then this thing will arrive in plenty of time for you to be playing the game on September 6th. There we go. Yep, $80. I'm getting one, Jan. I had this open. I was getting the stories ready this morning. The kids walk in. They're like, "Oh my God, we got to get that. Get it right now." I'm like, "Oh my God, you were asking for Squidward last week. Now you want this?" But yes, I'll get this because I really want it.
Oh man, Squidward was last week. What the heck?
It might have been 2 weeks ago. She's been asking for it pretty consistently for the last couple of weeks. She stopped in the last few days, but yes. This thing is very cute for audio listeners. It looks like Astro from Astro's Playroom, with the color scheme, the blue and the white, and then the trackpad has these sort of LED, LCD eyes, the little blue glowy eyes, and it just looks adorable.
Boy, howdy, Grubb. If what a better time for Sony to try and capitalize off of the ASTRO BOT hype. They should just make a VMU style controller.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of wish that. I think there was a rumor early on before the PS4 came out that this trackpad was going to be a screen. I think people just like must have seen it and like, is that a screen? And it would be things like, alert, you were using a used game. Like I remember like that meme or whatever. But hey, that's not a bad idea. I like screens on shit. Turn this into a screen and let me like put like animated GIFs on here so I can have Astro's eyes on my controller. That'd be great. I mean, obviously this is like, I wonder if those eyes are painted on or if there are like lights underneath the pad. I bet it's just painted on, but that'd be cool if it was actually glowing.
If it was glowing, that'd be great. It'd probably kill the DualSense battery.
Oh yeah, but that thing doesn't last long anyhow. Who gives a shit anymore? So yeah. Yeah, Astro. So yeah, we're just a little bit over a month away, and I am very excited, man. The game, when it comes out, they said it won't have that leaderboard chasing stuff right away, but they're going to add it in an update. Fine. That just means I'll actually beat the game before I get lost in that mode this time. That's good news for me.
They're doing it for you guys.
I know. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you so much. Last couple of stories here. Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble received an update. This is from Liam Doolin at Nintendo Life. Mostly putting this in here for this first one. Fixed an issue in adventure involving movement stopping every 6th frame. Additionally, the in-game physics have been slightly adjusted. There was, I've been enjoying this game. I like it. I've been recommending it, but I like Digital Foundry was like, hey, there's like this issue with the engine that is like every 6th frame, there's this little hiccup in the camera movement, especially, which is almost the entire game. That's how you control the game. And that's really annoying. Well, they did update the game to fix it. I'm just, well, hey, let's call that out and say they actually did it. So this game, which has gone on sale a couple of times, is better now and fixed up. And I think still very much worth it.
I agree.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yes, fantastic.
Those mini games, those party games are really, really good. That I could see a world where Sega, kind of tries to do more Monkey Ball stuff. Like we live in a world post Fall Guys world. And I think that may be a better Super Monkey Ball may be a better IP to adapt into a game like that versus that mobile Sonic Party Fall Guys style game.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea for them to like just take this IP and just branch it out a little bit and do some fun stuff like that. That would be
there.
Great.
You go, Divorced Cougar in chat. Ball Guys.
Yeah. I would love it. That would roll. They fixed an issue in Adventure where in which the stage clear times differed even when making the exact same controller inputs. So, okay, so there's no variability in the world anymore. It's all deterministic. But also, I wonder how people discovered that. I wonder if it was like they were using TAS, like a tool-assisted controller or something. All right, last one. There's a trailer for Sega's live-action Like a Dragon series. This is from VGC. But I'll bring it up here so we can see it for people watching the video. Sega and Prime Video have released the first trailer for the live-action Like a Dragon series, titled Like a Dragon Yakuza. An official synopsis says the series depicts the lives of fierce yet passionate gangsters and people living in a huge entertainment district, Kamurocho, a fictional district modeled after the violent Shinjuku wards, Kabukicho, that acts as the backdrop of the gameplay. The blurb continues, Like a Dragon Yakuza showcases modern Japan and the dramatic stories of these intense characters, such as the legendary Kazuma Kiryu, that games in the past have not been able to explore. Hey, listen, Prime Video's made some good video game shows recently. There's no reason this can't be good. It looks fine. It looks like it could be fun. I don't know if it's going to be great. Where do you think this is getting? Like, when they kind of make anime into a live action show, and that's like on one side of the spectrum for the most part, and then we got like Fallout, which I think is on like the excellent side of the spectrum. Where do you think this is going to end up?
Okay. We actually interviewed the two leads of the show at Comic-Con. And they I don't know if that interview's out, if I can talk about it, but there was an interesting wrinkle that the director is doing for the show because he knows of the unique characters that are constantly going on around Kamurocho. they do want to do like a semi-fresh take on the characters, but they have to know going into it that the Like a Dragon franchise and the Yakuza franchise, they have their definition of how Kazuma Kiryu is supposed to be. So
yeah,
I hope they can pull it off. Also, the two leads in the show that came to the studio, whew, handsome fellas.
Handsome dudes. All right, well, that's important.
Fellas.
That is important to get that right. Yeah, they got they're smoldering in this trailer a lot. There's a lot of smoldering going on, which I appreciate. Tell you what, there's maybe one shot of Kamurocho in here that really feels like it shows off the vibe of the streets. And to me, that feels like they don't have a massive budget for this show. I don't think that's too surprising. Yeah, look at that, that flies by. Let's see here. What was it? The comma button that goes back one frame. Yeah, it looks kind of cheap in this shot right here. So I hope that they're able to, like, you know, that happens sometimes. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of TV, a lot of movies that are made on a budget, and how you overcome that is with good writing, great acting, and a certain sort of energy and confidence that makes it feel like, oh, who cares? I like the story and character so much that I'm not really looking for the airs. I am just experiencing these things. And I think they could still pull that off. But yeah, we'll see.
It does appear to be that it's made by a Japanese company. The show is going to be in Japanese.
Yep.
So
that's very good.
From that what you will.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. I will say, I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to say this, so no one be mad at me if I spoil something. But there was a miscommunication that happened, and for whatever reason, the two leads of this show, when we had them into the studio, someone had told them that we were a French company.
Oh.
And I guess for them, it didn't help that Tam and Lucy were the two interviewing them, and because of their English accents, I think they were further a little bit confused. So after the interview wrapped, one of the gentlemen graciously, after saying thank you, said merci beaucoup.
Hell yeah, that rules. That's fantastic.
We thought he was just being a little bit cheeky, but then we figured out, like, oh, that's why he said merci beaucoup.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really great. Fandom sounds very French, I think. So, yeah, there you go. All right, that does it for the news headlines. Let me get this back over there. I got a poll question that I will bring up while I'm getting that set up, Jan. Why don't we tell people what we got going on if we know?
I'm going to assume it's regular programming.
It's mostly regular programming.
We're still in kind of a lull in terms of game releases.
That's right, a little bit. Madden's almost here, so we're almost going to be back to normal. But yes, a little bit of a lull still. It
is definitely going to ramp up slowly. But I know now is the time to play catch up, folks. If you haven't. I don't know if you haven't caught up on the big titles from early in this year. Maybe it's time to circle back. I did have Lorelei and the Laser Eyes put back on my radar over Comic-Con, and it's like,
I mean, to play that, damn it.
I should go back to that. Yeah, we should do something with the football game.
Yeah, I've got an idea. I just got to find the time for it. So yeah, we'll make it happen. That would be great. I wanted to spend more time playing stuff like Lorelei and the Laser Eye this weekend, but I spent almost the entirety in my pantry. We got moths in the pantry, Jan, and I had to tear the whole thing apart and clean it out, and we got rid of them. It's fine now. It was like on the verge of being a real bad infestation. But we have to get Tupperware, and we put everything in Tupperware now, and just to make sure it doesn't happen again, because everything we read is like, it'll happen again unless you like actually like seal up your dry goods. I'm like, oh,
fucking mommy.
So yeah, that was the whole weekend, and I got a little bit of time here and there. That's why I am not in the top one in every challenge in Nintendo World Championships NES Edition.
Every time I see you three talking about that game in our little Discord, I just like I get the itch to like, oh, maybe I can play it, and then I see the times, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna stay away.
My times are scared away Dan and Mike, so it can happen to anybody. Absolutely. All right. Poll question from last week. Let's see here. Have you ever played a Legacy of Kain / Soul Reaver game? 49% said yes. 51% said no. That's a pretty huge response there. Now, maybe there's some self-selection bias for this poll in the first place. Maybe the people that see Soul Reaver just honed in on it and had to respond. But regardless, that is a really big number, and I think it explains why you bring back Soul Reaver in a remaster collection. That is pretty cool.
That's pretty close there.
Yeah.
The no makes me upset though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
but I mean, now they're gonna get a chance to play it.
I mean, I say that, and I don't think I've actually played any of them. I just appreciate the vibe.
Yeah, I played a little bit of Soul Reaver on Dreamcast a year or two ago, and I just couldn't make it work for me. So I'm hoping the remaster is the solution to that, so I can see what everyone's into. But yeah, this is pretty cool that many people have played it, and I think it seems like the franchise could have a big bounce back if the remaster is handled appropriately. Next poll question is: are you going to see the Borderlands movie? Did we do this one already? I can't remember. I don't think we did, but I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure, but this is an updated version of it.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a couple weeks down the line.
You're right. Good point. Are you going to see the Borderlands movie? Yes or no? Now that you guys have started seeing trailers and commercials, kind of interested to see how you are gauging things now. And it is the summer. Maybe people are in a movie mood. Yeah,
it definitely seems like that. Looking at like the box office numbers and being at like an entertainment centered convention like San Diego Comic-Con, like that is the number one conversation I'd overhear all the time. Like whether it was overhearing.
Yeah, go ahead.
People are excited. Yeah,
yes,
people are excited to be going back to the movies. It seems like Twisters also was a big hit. Glenn Powell is saving.
Glenn Powell's a superstar, man. He really is. Absolutely. And I remember seeing him in Everybody Wants Some and being like, this guy's a star. I like this guy a lot. And
this guy's a star.
Yeah, this guy's a star. And I did Jazz Hands and I was alone and I felt very cool. All right. So are you going to see the Borderlands movie? That poll will be up on youtube.com/@giantbomb. If you go to the community tab, that's where you can find that. If you go to the live tab, you can find most of our stuff. But if you just hit that home button as well, Turbo Sean's done a pretty good job of organizing things there for you as well. You can also get more of us on giantbomb.com. As Jan said, mostly a normal week. Gonna have Bombcast tomorrow. Blight Club should return this week. No reason we can't do that. Things might get a little hectic later this week. I got SummerSlam happening. I got people coming into town, so we'll see. But we'll have some fun. We'll do some cool stuff. Look out for it.
Some potentially cool stuff happening soon as well.
Excellent. Very cool. All right, Jan Ochoa, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
It's the only way for me to start a Thursday.
Oh, shit. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself. Goodbye.